Hey everybody, welcome to the HIT.OR.DIE podcast, episode 31. We're here with Stanford head coach David Esker. Coach Esker was a standout athlete at Palma High School in Salinas, California. He was named Athlete of the Year, was a shortstop for Stanford from 84 to 87, and a member of the 1987 national title team. That was against Oklahoma State. He also was all tournament honors after hitting 350 with 6 RBIs. He was also named Pac-10 South as a senior, hitting 318 with 41 RBIs and 16 stolen bases. Side note, he got his degree in economics and master's in sociology, both in the same year. That's quite an accomplishment. Drafted by the Baltimore Orioles, in the 31st round of 1987. Played 4 seasons professionally with the Orioles, Angels, and Brewers. As a coach, 6 seasons, 1991 to 96, as an assistant at Stanford. 3 seasons as the head assistant at Pepperdine. That was 97-99. And 18 seasons from 2000 to 2017, head coach at Cal, which was 5 regional appearances, a trip to Omaha, and 11. Named 2001 Pac-10 Coach of the Year and 2011 National Coach of the Year. And he's entering his 3rd season at Stanford. 2018 won the Pac-12 title in first year. Named Pac-12 Coach of the Year. Made regionals in both seasons and super regional in 2019. In all, Coach Esker years has produced 13 All-Americans, over 90 MLB draft picks, including 8 first-rounders. That also includes Andrew Vaughn from Cal. And this is another bio we recommend you to go look at. It's just a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, no, Coach, thanks for joining us today.
No, thanks for having me.
We want to start back at the high school days if we can. Just obviously recruiting is different today than it was then, but can you talk about some of your high school days and then your recruitment process and getting into Stanford?
Yeah, I went to Palma High School in Salinas, and at that time you could play all the sports. So I played football, basketball, and baseball. That's kind of an anomaly now. Nobody's able to do that, and that's how times have changed. But I enjoyed doing that. Whatever season it was my favorite sport. And crazy enough is the way things go now. I think probably in high school, basketball might have been my best sport, but it's probably my worst chance to move on and play in the college level, right? Because I wasn't 6 foot even. So I thought if I would have specialized in the sport that gave me the best chance to move on and play in college, I probably would have missed my best sport in high school. So that's something I always think about when kids have to specialize these days, and all they're thinking about is what's going to get me a scholarship and what's going to give me the opportunity to play a college sport. There's some good opportunities there, and I think there's some learning experiences that kids are missing out on. For instance, I think nowadays if you're the backup defensive back on the football team or the 6th or 7th man coming off the bench on the basketball team, you're not playing football or basketball anymore, because you don't want to have to fight for that job in football, and you don't want to have to come off the bench in basketball. You want to hedge your bets, and you want to play the sport where you're going to start, and there's a chance for a scholarship and move on and travel ball and all those things. And I just think those are valuable lessons that kids are missing these days, and I encourage them to be as diverse as possible. And I don't think being an athlete that's well-rounded, I don't think that's going to keep you from college baseball. I don't think it'll keep you from the big leagues.
Yeah. Well, yeah. you're not taking the easy way out either. You put in the work in, and
yeah, like I said, my experience in football, it wasn't playing football that was the great experience. It was football practice.
Yeah.
That's the part that made you tougher, right? Yeah. And there's something about diving on a hardwood floor and getting a floor burn and running a suicide, and some of those things, they all kind of come into play, and they help develop your will and just different skills now. Yeah. I know nowadays in college baseball, I have to have drills to teach guys to dive back into first base. And I'm thinking, you're kidding me. I got to teach you to dive back into first base. I said, oh yeah, you haven't dove on a hardwood floor before, and you haven't dove in the street playing touch football. So I get it. You don't know how to dive on the ground, and so right. It's a different game, and it's a different world. You can complain about it, but it's just the way it is. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
You've got to stay noticed, and being on this side of it, there's times where there's kids you recruit, and they come in with just expectations, right? You have an expectation for their ability, and maybe there's somebody that you don't know much about, and maybe showing just as well. Well, it's going to take a little time. They're going to have to continue to show that consistently for you to believe that that's going to be real, and maybe to overtake the guy that you have expectation for, maybe because you've seen him as a good high school player, you've seen the competition that he's played against. And that's just, part of the decision process you do as coaches. Now, as coaches, which I know, and thank goodness Coach Marquis and Coach Stotts was this way when I was here at Stanford, is they've got too much on the line not to play the best people. So the best people play, and there is no ego involved as far as, hey, we need to play our recruits because this makes us look good. The bottom line, if you were the best player, you got to play whether you came on financial aid, your parents paid your own way, or they gave you 80 or 90% scholarship. And so I've always been run by that philosophy. Like, yeah, we may bring you with expectations and we may bring you in with some scholarship, but we don't care how you come.
Yeah, you're not entitled.
You're not entitled. And the bottom line is the best players are going to play. I owe that to the rest of the team, and I owe that to my family, right? Because we've got to win games.
That's a good mission statement, though, man. And that attributes to your success too. I love it. I think
that's being lost at the lower levels.
It is.
That's why sometimes these guys aren't prepared when they get to you.
Well, maybe not lost, but it's getting harder to implement.
Yeah,
it's getting harder. And I tell you what, one thing which is sad, and again, it's one of those situations where it's just the way it is, and you can't change it. Well, first of all, Babe Ruth, American Legion, Connie Mack, they're obsolete, right? That's when you played for your neighborhood team with your friends. There was a little emotion behind it, right? I mean, to the point where if somebody challenged your friends, you'd stand up for them, right? In those situations. Well, travel ball's not necessarily like that. We all pay the same amount of money, right? And so every family on that travel ball team is playing the same amount. Everyone gets to play. When you played American Legion, Connie Mack, Babe Ruth, there was a bench. There's a bench. It was a meritocracy, right? The best players played, and sometimes, as a 16-year-old on a 16 to 18-year-old team, you had to pay your dues and sit for a little while and take your inning here or a second back end of a doubleheader. But you had to earn your right, and eventually, when you became a frontline player, you valued that spot, and you didn't want the guy behind you playing the equal amount of game either after you won that spot. So that meritocracy's changed a little bit, right? Because if everybody's paying the same amount, everybody plays, 50% of the games or 50% of the tournament that you're going to. And so that sends a little bit of a different message, right? And that's why, kids, when they get disillusioned, when it's not working out on a certain they just change teams. Just change teams. I'm just going to find a team that will give me the playing time versus, find the team that have to earn that playing time.
Yeah.
Game.
You get to Stanford and 87 national champs.
Yeah.
Can you talk about, your guys' road to Omaha and playing in Rosenblatt and who'd we say was Oklahoma State you guys beat?
Yeah,
Robert
Oklahoma State
for the national title.
Yeah. So in all 4 years, we went to a regional final all 4 years. So we were, 2 games away on my freshman and junior years from going to Omaha all 4 years. And we went to Omaha my sophomore year. We're the number 1 team in the country going to the College World Series. And we lost to the 8th seed, which was Miami. They had a backup catcher hit 2 home runs against us, and they rolled us in game 1. I think we beat Arizona game 2, and then we lost to Arkansas game 3. We were the number 1 team in the country, and I felt like we kind of went in there with the attitude that we were good enough that if we play well, we're going to win, right? Fast forward that our next opportunity to get there my senior year, we kind of went in with the attitude, we don't care how we play, just win. Play good and win, play bad and win, play average and win. Just go in there and find a way to score one more run every game than the opponent. And it was a magical year. We had a bunch of great guys, and guys that were. I think we had 12 or 13 guys playing in the major leagues off that team, and we had our center fielder Toy Cook played 10 years in the NFL as a defensive back, and Ruben Amaro was our left fielder, and he was played in the big leagues for 6 or 7 years and was the GM of the Philadelphia Phillies, first base coach with the Red Sox. And, just up and down the lineup. We had a freshman, Paul Carey, our right fielder out of Weymouth, Massachusetts. And I use him as a tail every year because he was a terrible player his freshman fall. Terrible. Hardly got a hit at all. Come back in January and he starts to play a little bit better, and the job became open in right field, and kind of surprised to us, he's in the opening day lineup, first game of the season in right field. He gets a couple hits. He goes on to have an unbelievable year. He's all Pac-10 as a freshman. He's the MVP of the regional as a freshman. He's the MVP of the College World Series. Hits a grand slam versus LSU. And what kind of led us to the title was we went down by 3 runs in the top of the 10th inning to LSU. And in the bottom of the 10th inning, we hit a grand slam to win. Miracle victory. The next night we beat Texas to get into the finals, and then we beat Oklahoma State in the championship game, and it was just a incredible dream season for us. But we had some incredible leaders. Ed Sprague, who was our third baseman, and Ed's one of those program changing personalities. He's from Stockton in the Valley, and Ed played on 2 national championship teams here at Stanford. He played on 2 World Series championship teams with the Toronto Blue Jays, and he won a gold medal in the Olympics. And I always tell people say, "God, Ed, how lucky is that? Right place at the right time." And you're like, "No, that's not luck."
No, nobody's that lucky.
Yeah, he's the reason. He's the reason those teams are winning, and he was a big reason we won. Jack McDowell, who was a Cy Young Award winner with the Chicago White Sox, and Jack was pitching in the College World Series in June, and then we all drove down to the Oakland Coliseum in September to watch him beat the A's in the major leagues the same year he took us to Omaha. So that's what kind of talent he was.
That's crazy.
Pretty good ball club. And it's you hear that stuff with Omaha, and it's like there's always it's like the magic of that place and that whole tournament, that there's always something. You had Vanderbilt down a couple years ago, and the LSU, what was it?
Well, even Oregon State against Arkansas.
The pop up, right?
That's it. Yeah, the pop up.
You got to have that moment, you know, and you look for those moments. Like there's going to be the moment that's going to define that whole series for you. And sometimes those teams, they got to have that. Obviously a grand slam in the bottom of the 10th inning defines it. It might be your year.
Yeah.
We had played kind of sleepy up until then. We weren't really hitting a whole lot. We had won. I think we beat Georgia on the opening game 3-2. Game 2, we played Texas, and Stanford I think they had gone 1-2 their last 3 or 4 times at the College World Series, and we beat Texas to go into the winners bracket final against Oklahoma State. And Robin Ventura played for Oklahoma State. He had a 58-game hitting streak, and we stopped his streak on Game 3, but they ended up winning the game. And from then on we went. We played LSU in Game 4, which is the elimination game. So we lose, we're out, and we hit a grand slam, and then we go back and play Texas again, and we beat them in the losers bracket final to get to the championship. We're fortunate we only had to beat Oklahoma State once in the final, and they were a great club. But there's some history there. We had gone to Oklahoma State the year before in the regionals, and we play with a lot of spirit and a lot of emotion. And I think at one point they had a comment that you bring on Stanford in their cheerleading skirts, and we'll take them on in the regional, and they end up beating us. But Jack McDowell that next year, quite a character, and I remember he threw a birthday party for himself, and he got all the team together, and he made a toast, and he said, "Here's to winning a national championship," and then he ended it with "against Oklahoma State," and that's what happened.
Let him know.
Yeah.
Was coaching something you knew you were going to get into, or
not at all? It's kind of crazy, So I majored in economics undergrad and got into a graduate program here while I was in school, so I was able to work on both degrees. And
madman.
and I studied organizational behavior, right? And so it was all about leadership, and I just thought I wanted to get as close to business, and I wanted to be someone who led people, and I was thinking about management eventually, so I wanted to get some background in that field. I thought I was going to be an investment banker, right? I mean, I was just kind of cookie cutter. Well, you graduate from Stanford with an econ degree, you go be an investment banker. You work a bunch of hours. They work the heck out of you, but you make some money, and then they spit you back to business school, and then you go get a job, right? I thought that's where I was headed, but I was going to play pro ball first, right? And just during my years at pro ball, I started to create a passion for learning about hitting and my swing, and I just developed a talent of watching other guys' swings. When I was in the minor leagues, I mean, players would come to me and ask me for early work, and I'd work with them. And I keep seeing those guys shoot up to AA, right? And all these guys that I'm working with, and they're like, "Hey, Esky, let's go. Can you come hit with me early?" And they would be gone in a couple of weeks or in a month. And, I had a talent to kind of look at some swings and figure out what would help getting better. Unfortunately, I kind of was still hanging around an A ball because I didn't have that. I didn't have that person who was going to give me the magic touch. But the Angels, they started to talk to me a little bit whether I'd be interested in being a coach after playing. Great hitting. Joe Madden, who's the manager now, was the roving hitting instructor with the Angels, and just watching him be such a positive presence and just so positive with all the young players. And God, he can make you feel good about 3 foul balls. You were right on the edge of a 10-game hitting streak because you took a great pass at a ball and fouled it away. And so, I used to come back here at Stanford when I was going to grad school in the off season. I just told Coach Marcus I'd come out and help. I said, hey, if you need batting practice, and so I'd throw a little batting practice early to some guys, and then typically he would kind of just say, hey, why don't you take this group of guys and go run them through a practice up on the soccer field? And they're basically kind of the players that were probably the lower end of the roster that he just kind of wanted to get better, but occupy some time while he was working with the other players. I did that for a couple years. I used to come work on the field, and in the off season while I was still around because I was going to school, I was the groundskeeper in the off season. He'd give me a couple projects, whether it was leveling the lips or fertilizing the field or aerating the field, and I kind of did everything on the baseball field, and just loved being around here. And then one year, my last year in pro ball, I was eating breakfast at a Denny's in Stockton. I was playing for the Stockton Ports, and I was reading the Sunday Chronicle, and in the transactions page it said Coach Kirk Mason has just taken a head coaching position at Colorado State. Well, Coach Kirk Mason was an assistant coach here for us. So I kind of half jokingly said, well, I'm going to call the secretary up tomorrow and just kind of joke around and say, hey, where's my job offer? I got back to my hotel room, and there was a message on my phone to call Coach Marquis. I called him, and he says, hey, I'd like to drive down tomorrow. Where do you think you are in your baseball career? And I knew that I wasn't going to make it to the big leagues. They weren't parting the Red Sea for me to get to Double A, let alone the major leagues. I did think I could play for a couple more years. Like I said, they talked to me about, maybe eventually going into coaching, and I spoke Spanish. I played all the positions. So I would have been, the guy that maybe could move up as a utility guy that could, speak to the Latin players and kind of help them out in the road. I probably could exist in pro ball a little bit longer, but I promised myself I wasn't going to stay in pro baseball as long as I was just kind of there. I wanted to see if I had a chance to make it to the big leagues. I knew that wasn't going to happen. Coach Marcus said, I'd like you to offer you the job before I make it public. So I had some quick decision making and some quick life decisions to make. That didn't mean Wall Street, right? Yeah. I had to decide if I ever was going to consider coaching. Here's an opportunity to start at my alma mater in the six pack. There was going to be no higher level I would be able to start at. And I just, like I said, my history had always been I came to Stanford because I knew I wasn't going to be a great player at a lower level school that was a surer thing. Like I could have went to D2 or maybe a lower level Division I school, and maybe I'd have had a surer chance of playing just based on my abilities. But I thought I'm going to be the same player no matter where I go. If I'd have gone to Stanford or anywhere else, I was probably going to be the same player. So why not challenge myself at the highest level? And I kind of thought that way with coaching too. So, if I got a chance to start at the highest level, let's see if this works. And once I got that, I kind of got the fever of working with players and watching them get better and having it be more about them than about me, and just develop a passion for it.
Can you, I don't know how much detail you can get into how close it was. I know you guys, they raised a lot of money pretty quick. A lot of alumni came to support, and can you tell us what it took to really save that season and ultimately in 2011 get to Omaha, having to deal with all of that, how those kids were so resilient to make that happen?
Prior to that year, to be honest, it was it was the time that we had been working to build the program, and we had got that point. Coach Dan Hubbs and myself had got that program to a point we felt like we had an opportunity for really sustained success. And at the start of that year, I remember telling the team, I thought we could go to Omaha. I said, we can be in a College World Series. I said, we could beat any team in the country in a 2 out of 3 game series. Any team, you put any team in front of us, we had the pitching to win 2 out of 3 every weekend. And I said, that's what it takes to get to Omaha. You got to win a super regional and you got to win 2 out of 3. So we get ourselves to that point, we can get to the College World Series. Well, that was in late August where I had made that statement to a team at a team meeting. Probably 3 or 4 weeks later, I got called into the athletic director's office, and there was some rumors that Cal could be cutting sports. I remember just seeing a movie, I think, and it was about a company that came in and did separation packets, and I'm trying to think of the movie. It was anyway. They bring you in when they're going to let you go, and they got these manila envelopes that they give you, and they tell you, you go, this is your HR packet to go see. Well, I go into the office, and there's 3 manila envelopes, one with my name and my 2 assistant coaches. And I see my associate athletic director, and I said, how you doing today? And he goes, not very good. I said, well, that makes me a little nervous. He says, I can't tell you not to be. So he walks me in the athletic director's office, and the athletic director says, I'm just here to tell you that this will be the last year that University of California, Berkeley will sponsor baseball. And we're not gonna have a baseball program after this year. So my first thoughts, race to my players. I've got freshmen there who just have been on campus for 3 or 4 weeks. I've got recruits who think they're coming to Cal. I have a team that I think can go to the College World Series, and I've got to tell them that Cal's dropping baseball. And they dropped baseball, right? I mean, we were dropped, and I told our team that I would only deal in reality. No hope. There wasn't the hope that they will bring it back, and I'm not going to tell you, hey, just hang in there because we're gonna change this. Cal had dropped baseball, and they really had given no hope other than putting a pile of money on the athletic director's desk that they were going to bring it back. So we let go of all our recruits. All our players knew that they could leave at the semester and play immediately. I had players going on recruiting visits that fall who are my current players. My assistant coach, Dan Hubbs, would tell me, he says, hey, Tony Renda and Justin Jones. Tony hit 3rd for us. He was the player of the year in the conference. And Justin Jones was our Friday pitcher. They said, Tony and Justin are at Oregon this weekend on a recruiting trip, just so you know. And I tell him, I said, hey, just don't tell me. I said, that's like setting my wife up on dates. I don't even want to know, right? I don't even want to know. So a bunch of players were on recruiting trips because they had to find a place to go the next year. And we were actively helping them. We were calling Texas and other schools and saying, hey, I've got my starting second baseman. He would consider your school. So the big fear that year is, how do you hold them there? There was a lot of solidarity. A lot of kids are like, Coach, we're going to stick this out. We got a good team. And that fall was all great. Probably the character of my team is the day that I told them that they were cutting the program. I said, hey guys, I can understand if you guys need a day or two to collect your thoughts and talk to your parents and figure out what's going to happen for you. We're here for you. We'll meet with you. I said, I can understand if you need a couple days off. A couple guys on the team says, Coach, we're not taking any days off. We're practicing today. And I said, wow. Here's a team that's been told that their program is no longer going to exist, and they want to go out and practice today. And that's just who they were. They had an incredible character. So you don't fear about them leaving during the semester. I said, well, what about when they go home for Christmas? What about when they have 3 weeks or 4 weeks of vacation, and then they're around the people in their hometown are saying, like, why are you staying there? They don't have a program. They don't care about you. You could go to Texas or Northridge or Irvine or wherever, and you can play in February.
Oh, sorry, hit the wrong button.
Right? You could play in February. So I was really proud of and we had 3 players who decided to leave. And it was too tenuous for them to stick around. And I didn't worry. They said, hey, Coach, you had 3 players leave at the break. And I said, I'm not worried about the 3 that left. I said, I'm more proud of the 35 players who decided to come back. That's who we are. We'll deal with the future in the future. So a lot of the alumni, they got together, said, we're not letting this happen, right? But there was no hope that they could do it. And it wasn't until April of that year. We did not get the program reinstated until April of the season. We didn't start re-recruiting for the program until after the College World Series. So we had let all our recruits go, and really had to start at ground zero. So, I tell people many times, as proud as I am of going to the College World Series with that team, and it was an incredible accomplishment, and yet it was something that I thought we had been building towards. We had been building towards getting to that College World Series. We had lost to Oral Roberts the year before in the Oklahoma regional. We lost to North Carolina and Oklahoma and Oral Roberts, and we had a great team. But I thought that we were building off of that team. As a matter of fact, I remember driving into Omaha. Mark Canna, who plays for the Oakland A's, he was a culture changing player for us at Cal. He made us tougher. He got guys to just care about nothing but winning. Self-sacrifice. The guy would bunt on his own with runners at first and third to drive on the run. He was our best hitter. I'm like, Mark, what are you doing? He goes, I want to win. I don't care about getting a swing. I'm going to get that run in. I remember texting him on our way to TD Ameritrade. I says, hey, Mark, I just want to let you know that we are here on your shoulders of what you did and what your teammates did for us. That's what led us to Omaha, right? And it was just magic that we did that. But yeah, they didn't reinstate us until April. Again, like I said, as proud as I am of going to Omaha, 3 years later, I knew it would take 3 years to rebuild that program. 3 years later, we were in a regional final at Texas A&M, and I think maybe that's as proud as I've ever been of in my coaching career.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, just starting over again. And so, did you get any recruits that you let go? Did any of them end up coming back?
One came back. A guy by the name of Chris Paul. He had committed to another school, and when they reinstated the program, and it was Santa Barbara, and I think he told Coach Bronsema, and he says, "Hey, Coach, Cal was my first choice, and they dropped the program, and that's where I'd like to be, and I know that I committed to come to you, but just if it would be okay for me to really go back to where my first commitment was." And Coach Bronsema was gracious, and he released him, and he was able to come back. But that was the only one we got back.
That's crazy.
That's a challenge though, and to keep them rallied and to keep them focused and to keep their eye on the prize. And
yeah,
you're going to class, and you're committed to something that is gone.
Well, I remember one of the photos they showed. I think it was the San Francisco Chronicle, and Andrew Knapp, who's in the major leagues with the Philadelphia Phillies right now. His dad had played at Cal. His brother was committed to come to Cal, and it was just a family deal. And one of the pictures they showed was when we had announced that they had dropped the program. There was a picture in the Chronicle of Andrew Knapp sitting in the stands at Evans Diamond crying, and it was emotional for some. It was hard. It was like, you don't have a school to go to. You wanted to be at Cal Berkeley, which is a great academic institution, and yet one of the things that brought you there was to have a baseball experience, and that was going to be gone the next year. And it was true. Like I said, there were subtle signs throughout the whole year. I remember there were graphics in the outfield that we used to have, and they were getting torn and weathered, and I had a donation to replace those. And I remember going to the business office and said, hey, listen, I'm going to replace these graphics in the outfield. And I remember the people in the business office telling me, like, yeah, but if you replace them, they have to be plain and blue. I said, why? He said, well, because it's not going to be a baseball field next year. You're not going to be back next year. And so we don't need baseball graphics on a field that's not going to be a baseball field next year. So, it wasn't a threat. It was a truth.
I mean, it kind of, just hearing that, you guys were, you had to save yourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I mean, I don't want to misspeak there, but.
Well, great alumni, and one in particular, Stu Gordon, came and rallied a bunch of people. He worked with the chancellor. I think the game changer was before there was just about donations, right? Like how much money you have. We need you to ensure a number of years to be able to. Now we're not going to bring you back for 1 year. So it isn't about raising money to bring you back for 1 year, and it's not about raising money to bring you back for 2 years. That doesn't do anything. You need the ability to say you're going to be back for 10 years, and during that 10 years, build an infrastructure so that you can stay forever, right? So the 10-year amount was $10 million, right? And it wasn't about raising 10 million and sticking 10 million on the chancellor's desk. It wasn't until he started to work with our fundraisers, and he allowed people to make multi-year pledges. That's what was able to really move the needle on how much money we were going to be able to raise, because we weren't going to be able to raise enough money in 1 year to make that 10 years. But people could say, I'll give you $20,000 over the course of 5 years, right? So that's what made the difference. But even today they're still living off the money that was raised, and I think they're in a better place. I think the athletic director is going to pull them back into the financial model of the athletic department. But baseball was 100% funded by outside sources for the rest of my time there.
Do they still have those? It was players. It was ex-players that was up on those walls.
Yeah,
and it was not intimidating, but going to we played you guys in 07, and it was neat to they're like huge posters of ex-players.
Yeah.
And are they still there?
Yeah, they're still there.
Ones?
No, they haven't done new ones. And they were just kind of built with players who were great players at Cal during the eras. The Xavier Nadies of the world, Connor Jackson, who I was able to coach, and just great Cal players. It didn't necessarily mean you had to play in the big leagues, but guys who were really kind of players during their time at Cal. So yeah, it was I always explain it. So my job at that time was to build a program, save a program, and dismantle a program all at the same time, right? So I had to run a program, that's what I used to say, run a program, dismantle a program, and then save a program. So it was a lot of work, and it was all day, every day.
And you in the summer of 2017, this is an open spot here at Stanford. Coach Marquez retires. How did that work? I mean, were you up against, do you know if you were up against other candidates, or was it saying, hey, this is our guy?
No.
We know who we want.
No, I don't. There were other candidates, right? And there should be, right? There's no better job in college baseball.
Yeah.
And there were other candidates. And really, had never thought about that this would be an opportunity. I 18 years at Cal, and would have left Cal for no other place. But you didn't know that that's where it was going to be a reality. People always said when I was coaching, they used to tease me all the time that Eski's the heir apparent to 9, and he's just like 9, and it's going to be his pro. And then yet after you stay at Cal for 10, 15 years, it probably could be somebody else's. And just blessed and fortunate. Coach Marquez was always a great supporter of mine, and I don't know how it fell to me, but I know I had great support from the alumni and teammates and other people that are here, and just a dream to come back, and like I said, just blessed that I was the pick when it came right down to it.
And probably help, having his endorsement maybe a little bit and playing here. I think that's important though too. I'm sure that's what they were looking for. They want
knowing the tradition.
Yeah, they want alumni. They want, a guy who's won a national title, who knows what it takes to win here, who's bled these colors. I mean, that's got to be important.
Well, the lessons I learned here is what allowed me to, to go to a school like Cal Berkeley and make that my own too, and make them my family. Was, whatever colors I'm wearing, I'm competitive, and I'll bleed for them, right? And I just have, you'll get every piece of me, my heart and soul. Now this place is even more special to me because this is where I grew up, right? This is where I learned all those values. And Coach Marcos is as important a figure in my life as anybody, probably next to my father, probably as influential as anybody that's been around me. I think I've consulted with him in every major decision I've made since I've left here, whether it's buying a house or getting married or taking a job or negotiating a contract. Coach Marcos has been there for me. And so just to get the opportunity to kind of take the baton from him, it's about a 150-pound baton, but but ever to take that over from him, and my philosophy has always been one, which is, it would be great to win a national championship here, but along the way, I just want to deliver the same experience that I had as a player here, which is I played with my best friends, and those friends, some of them are as close to me as brothers. They're family to me. And I know with that being, the baseline, and with starting there, we'll have a chance to play for a national championship. If those relationships can be that strong and that important, and then also kind of deliver the same messages I had as a player, which is you got to be a fierce competitor, and you want to be relentless, and you don't want to be that a stereotype here, which is there's got to be a little toughness to you. You're not going to be the smart kid that studied all the time that they could push around the locker room and beat up in the parking lot.
Well, we wish you the best of luck, and Coach, really appreciate you taking some time out of your day, and happy holidays.
I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate it. This is great, great hospitality. Your field looks amazing.
Yeah, it does.
By the way,
It's
the
ridiculous.
whole facility. So yeah, we appreciate it. We went a little over your time frame, but hopefully it was all right.
That's okay.
Well, Coach, thank you again, and guys, that's episode 31.
Hit or die. We're here with pitching coach, recruiting coordinator at Stanford University, Thomas Eager. He's a Valley boy, attended Merced High School, was all conference as a junior and senior, was a member of Merced's 2002 CIF, and it was a Valley title back then, not section title. Went on to play at Cal Poly. Coach Eager was 5th round pick in 2007 by the St. Louis Cardinals. Spent 4 seasons in professional baseball. As a coach, he has spent a few seasons at Cal Poly, 2 seasons at Cal, and this will be his 3rd season at Stanford. Coach Eager has helped develop numerous draft picks, to name a few. First rounder out of Cal, Dalton Jeffries. At Stanford, compensation pick, 1st round, Chris Bubich. 4th rounder, Tristan Beck. 4th rounder, Eric Miller. And 5th rounder, Jack Little. And then at Cal Poly, he had also a compensation pick after the 1st round is Matt Imhoff out of Cal Poly. Coach Eager, thanks very much for getting on the show with us.
No, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Now, being a Valley guy, let's go through your recruiting process, being a top pitcher out of Merced, and a small school, coming from a small school and where you've been and where you've ended up. Just tell us a little bit about the recruiting process and how you ended up at Cal Poly.
I think, growing up in Merced, maybe very similar to you guys growing up in the Clovis area, you don't really know so much what's out there. It's kind of a smaller deal, right? And, we had a good culture of players that were my age that we kind of grew up playing together, and we thought, hey, we're all the best players, and we're all going to play college, and we're all going to, go play in the major leagues. And I think just kind of living in a small bubble, I think that's part of it. But, while we were playing and when we were younger, it was like, hey, how do we play varsity baseball? It wasn't even about college. It's like, hey, we're in 8th grade. How do we play varsity baseball at Merced High School? Because those are the games we were going to. We were watching Merced versus Golden Valley on a Friday night at Merced JC under the lights, and it was like that was the moment. That's what you were shooting for. I wanted to follow in a guy like Matt Scott, who actually went to Fresno State, and there's got Gus Sanchez, who actually played at Fresno City. When I'm watching these guys, when I'm in 8th grade, I'm like, okay, these are the dudes. These are the guys I want to be around. And then when we got to high school, it's like, how do we play varsity? Like, that's the only thing we cared about. It wasn't about college. It wasn't about, Major League Baseball. You have dreams. There's like varsity baseball was like the thing for us. And it's like, you're on varsity, like we're rolling. And pretty much everybody on our team that I grew up playing with from the lower levels, we all went to the same high school except for one or two guys. The other guys went to the other high school in town. And none of us played varsity as freshmen. And we were so pissed. We played, all of us played freshman baseball. We didn't even play JV. And I remember our guys were like, we were angry. We were pissed that we didn't even get a chance. And we were, just highly competitive and didn't understand like why we didn't get a chance to play varsity baseball. And even to the point where we actually had to practice with JV. So it's freshman and JV practice together. And I remember at the end of the year, like we went up to the JV coach and we said, hey, we won a 3-game series against you guys to show you that our freshman team's better than your JV team. And he was like, no, we can't do that. Like, you guys are better, and it would be a bad look. And I'm like, no, screw that. I'll practice along. They're talking crap. And no, set up a series at the end of the season. We're going 3 games, and I guarantee it, we beat the JV team. And they never did it. But the following year, and Merced made the playoffs that year, and they brought up like 3 or 4 JV guys, right? You guys, and none of the freshman guys got brought up. So all of us were once again like, screw this place. And then the next year, 3 of us made varsity as sophomores. And that was the kind of time I'm like, okay, and we were around some good dudes. Gus was gone, Matt Scott, a lot of these older guys were gone that were really good players. And, we got to go in there and play, and it was fun. I mean, it was a blast. It was highly competitive. We had some really, really good players, and we had big shoes to fill because, I think they won the league title the year before, and, we're trying to have this winning culture. And going and playing, we didn't think about, I wasn't thinking about college baseball as a sophomore. It was always in the back of your head, but nowadays, you talk to kids like freshmen or sophomore, they have a plan. They already have their 20 schools picked out they want to go to. They already know where they want to. I'm like, I had no clue. It was like whoever's in the College World Series that year, that's where I wanted to go. If it was South Carolina, I'm going to South Carolina. If it was Nebraska with Java, I'm going to Nebraska. And if it was, and then, as I got older, it changed. But, so we won that section title in 2002, which was awesome. And then, junior and senior year going in, I didn't really know what the recruiting part was. My dad was pretty old school. He said like, hey, if you're good, they're going to find you. We're not doing anything, and if a camp comes along, we'll go to it. But at the end of the day, like if you're good, they're going to find you. If not, then you're going to Merced JC or Fresno City. And if you're good there, they're going to find you out of there. So it wasn't looked upon as going to a junior college as necessarily a bad thing. It was like, hey, it's whatever your path is going to take you. And I didn't realize this, but when I was a sophomore on varsity, we were playing a section championship against Elk Grove. They had a kid named Matt McClevich on the mound who ended up going to Cal Poly. And I was playing third base at the time, and Jerry Weinstein was the pitching coach for Cal Poly. And that's when I got my first camp invite to Cal Poly. And I never went, and the junior year I got to get in, and I finally found out, like, he said, he goes, I watched you throw the ball across the diamond, and I think you'd be a good pitcher. And this is my junior year, and I'm like, yeah, I don't pitch. Like at the time, I was catching third base, outfield. I didn't really know much about pitching, and I just threw hard, but no clue where it was going. And then that summer, he had me come down to a camp again, and he finally said, hey, I want you to come pitch. I'm like, I don't know if I can do that. And then probably, hey, I don't know if this is even legal. This is long enough ago, but Jerry's already in college again. But he held a workout at Merced JC, all right? And at the time, it was guys I played Legion ball with. And that was the next thing, we're talking about playing varsity baseball at Merced High was the biggest thing. The next thing that summer was like, how do we get on that Legion team with Rollo Adams, who was very instrumental in Legion and in our town. And he had all the JUCO guys, kids from Chowchilla, Dos Pals. It's like, how do you play on that? And my sophomore year, at the end of the year, I got to play on it. And that team had Dusty Ryan, Doug Pfister, Omar Aguilar, had these dudes playing. I remember just walking up, like, man, they're in junior college. I'm like, eyes wide open. But it was cool. And so we ended up having a workout. Weinstein had a workout at Cal Poly, which is probably legal. And it was, like I said, Dusty Ryan, Doug Pfister, myself, maybe 1 or 2 JUCO guys. And we did a workout, me through, did a whole thing, got me on the mound, and said, throw 10 balls as hard as you can, I don't care where it goes. And I threw him. He goes, you want to go to Cal Poly? And that's when he offered me. And I'm like, I'm not a pitcher. I still didn't know who this Weinstein guy was. I'm like, I don't know what you're doing, man. He's like an old little dude. And I was like, I don't know anything about you, but all right. And so then I was like, I'm a hitter, and I was, I wanted to go. I always thought about Fresno State. That's where the games my dad took me to. The football, the basketball, and the baseball games, and Sugar Bear out there. And I was like, he was a character. Got to listen to him, and then basketball. At the time you had Melvin Eli, Courtney Alexander, and then you had the Cars. Come through there. So there was a lot of history with the Fresno State program. I was always really interested into it, and just like anything else, sometimes it just doesn't work out. I actually got to go on one visit. went around, got a tour, and it was nice. But I kind of realized that, they weren't moving as fast. And then, other schools started moving fast, like USF, UOP, Nevada, UC Davis, or some of the schools that started contacting me in Cal Poly. And at the time, I was like, hey, Fresno State was like a pretty main one I wanted to. And then Fullerton and Long Beach were the other two. It was like, those are the schools. Like, if I can go to those three, then that's the college angle I want to go to. And the whole Cal Poly thing, both my parents went there. I'm like, I can't follow in their footsteps. I got to create my own path. Like,
Do something different.
Yeah, Fresno was like, and I liked Fresno. I liked the attitude they had there. It was Central Valley, right? And it was that blue collar mentality. And I was in on that. And then my dad called around a couple scouts. He knew Pedretti really well, just being a Merced. And they asked, like, who's this Weinstein guy? And they're like, hey, if this guy wants you, you got to go. And I was like, he wants me to pitch, Dad. I don't want to pitch. And he goes, let's go down one more visit. So we go down there, and Weinstein sits me down and goes, look, what do you want to do? I go, I want to be a big leaguer. He goes, for how long? I goes, 20 years. I don't care. I just want to pitch in the, I want to play in the big leagues. He goes, you come here, I'll get you to the big leagues. And I was like, okay, done. That's all you had to say. I didn't realize it was that quick. It just is someone was telling me that they're going to get me to the big leagues. I'm like, that's what I want to do. And then two, before I went down there, I realized that Fullerton and Long Beach were both in that conference, in the Big West Conference. And at the time, this is how naive I was. I didn't even know what like conferences were, like packed. I was so naive when all that stuff. And I just saw a Big West Conference. Okay, who's in it? I'm like, all right, Fullerton, Long Beach. Well, pretty good conference then. All right, and I get to play against them, and they never recruited me, and so I'm going to get to beat them up, hopefully. And that was kind of the deciding factor. And then I think the other part, too, is I think my dad always realized I got into a school I probably couldn't get into if it wasn't for baseball, just academically. I wasn't a terrible student, but, I was like a 3.5 GPA, but the SAT was a battle for me. I think I took it 4 or 5 times to get into Poly.
I don't even know what a 3.5 looks like. Maybe I have that after the first day of school.
Chad goes, it goes that high?
I was going to city college no matter what.
But yeah, the recruiting thing was different. Everybody has their own path, and I tell people that all the time. I'm like, there's no right or wrong way, and the worst thing you can do is compare yourself to anybody else, And I think in my shoes, we didn't really have a lot of people going to 4-year schools out of Matt Scott went, but I didn't know him. And then a guy before me, a guy named Eddie Gamboa, who actually pitched in the big leagues, I think with the Orioles and the Rays. He went to UC Davis. He was a year older than me, but out of there nobody was going to like the Fullertons or the Long Beaches or SCs, Cal, Stanfords. It wasn't there. It was just, so, you get some of these schools coming at you, you don't really know enough about it. And, like I said, I was more focused on how do I play on that Legion team and how do I play on the varsity baseball team, and whatever the recruiting thing happens, it happens. And
kind of like where the best guys are, how do I get where those best guys are?
Right. And
following that.
And you think you're the best, right? I'm no doubt. I guarantee you probably thought you were the best hitter, coming out of Clovis,
I was the best hitter.
See, there you go. Right.
I still am the best hitter ever come out of this area.
That's what,
but that was my mentality. And that's why I was fortunate enough to be as good as I was, even though I might not be the best player to ever come out where I was, but that was my mentality. And that's why, I think that's you saw us play at Fresno City. That was all of our mentality, and that's why we were so good.
Well, I played against you in high school, and you guys were at Bullard, and I was like, man, I keep forgetting his name, the French shortstop.
Jacques Lamour.
Yeah, man, that guy was sweet.
Jacques.
He was silky, man. And I remember I'm like, man, these, when we go up there and play Clovis and you guys in that tournament at the beginning of the year, that was like our deal. That was like, okay, let's see how good we are against the Clovis schools, because there was always like the best stadiums and everything was nice, the players, and you had players out of your area going to some of the bigger colleges. And so this little Merced town, say, okay, who we think we're really good, because in our bubble we're amazing, but let's branch out 45 miles down the road and see how good we are. And that's where I think the competitiveness came in, because it was like, I think like my dad always instilled in me, like, if you're good, they're going to find you, and if you don't think you're the best player on the field, then you're probably not good enough to go to college. And that was kind of instilled in me. And, we went down and played the Clovises. I remember as a sophomore, I was just like eyes wide open. And then by the time I was a senior, it was like, okay, we're going down there to kick the crap out of these guys.
Yeah.
We beat Buchanan, and we go down there and play these schools and beat them, because it was like, you grew up and you understood, like, yeah, I am good. At least I think I am, right? And then, the recruiting part of it just kind of took care of itself. But, like Nate Smith, unbelievable player out of Clovis. And I remember playing third base, and on third, he's going to USC, and I'm like, man, this guy's going to SC. I think I'm better than this guy. Like, what are we doing? And I go to Cal Poly. I'm like, all right, that's fine. I'm going to make sure. And I don't know what Nate's doing now. Nothing against him, but I tracked him all my whole college career. I'm like, what are you doing this year? And what am I doing? Am I better? Right. And it was kind of weird. And it's nothing against Nate. It was just like, he was supposed to be the best, coming out of the air. He's going to SC. I'm going to Cal Poly. So when I was in college every year, what did I do? Saw what he did, and then it was just kind of the motivational part. And like I said, it wasn't against anything that Nate did, and he was a great guy and he was nice, but it was like, I wanted to be the best and I wanted to perform and prove people wrong.
Competing.
Right.
Yeah. Like
Just
you
the
said,
competitive
it's not-
nature.
Yeah. You're actually saying he was the best in
Yeah.
our area, in the, Clovis, Fresno area. And you're like, how can I beat him out? And that's a good tool. These kids, I think, they want to be the best, but are you playing as good as the best?
Well, and are you making excuses?
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing, right? I think that's the difference is like, are you making excuses on why he's better than you or why you're not as good as him or why you're not getting compared to him? I don't think it's about the excuses. At the end of the day, it's about the results and what people see. And if they don't see it, then prove them wrong.
Right. Like
Yeah.
you say, if you think you're the best, if you got a pitcher on your team who thinks he's the best player in our league, are you living up to that?
Are you working hard enough? Are you grinding? Are you getting better? Or are you just, coming out, taking it,
Just measuring. You're using those measurables, and
yeah.
that's the guy that at the time was at the top of the
Absolutely.
chart. Yeah.
Absolutely. And he was, he was the area code kid and I wasn't, he was the one that was doing all this stuff and I wasn't. And I kind of took not like offensive. I was like, it was motivational. I was like,
Right.
okay. And at the end of the day, my goal, if you think back, right, and you look back in the big picture across everything, once I got to the point where I was like, okay, I want to play college baseball, was I able to attain that? Yes. Okay, good. And maybe it wasn't maybe necessarily the school I dreamed of in the beginning, but my college experience was amazing. And then when I got to college, I was like, okay, I want to play professional baseball. And at the time, you're like, I'll sign for a Snickers bar just to play professional baseball. And then as it gets closer and closer, now you're like, it becomes reality. And it's like, well, no, I want more money. I want this. Like, you forget how simple you thought about just, I wanted to play college. I'll go anywhere to play college. I want to play professional baseball. I'll do anything. And then you get clouded by other stuff. And I think that's the stuff that ends up jeopardizing you a little bit or, having an impact on negatively and trying to help you actually reach your full dream. You forget exactly what you really want. And you start wanting outside factors or more money or a bigger school or all these other things. And if you ask yourself when you were 15 years old, what do you want to do? I want to play college baseball. Okay, where? I don't know. I just want to play. And at 18, you want to play? Yeah. What round are you going to draft it? I don't care. I just want to play. And you forget about those things.
That's 100% true.
I think that's common, though. I mean, is that how you got?
I was told that I talk about myself too much on this podcast, but no, you're exactly right. All I ever want to do is play professional baseball, and somebody gave me that opportunity, and I said, you know what, that's not. I want more money, and it didn't work out, and I went and played at Oral Roberts. But looking back on it, that might be one of the only things that I've ever regretted in my life. I'm not saying that I regret my life or what happened, but professionally, somebody's giving you your dream and you're saying no.
Yeah.
That's where I look back and I'm like, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
And it could have ended up different, but I'm here today. I wouldn't be here today talking to you guys if I made that decision to sign.
You be in the big leagues or what?
Probably.
Well, I think, as a kid growing up and seeing that, it's like that's what it's about. And that was fun. And maybe too, as a kid, you think that's more obtainable. You don't necessarily think going and watch the Giants play and going to watch 49ers play or watching the Kings or Warriors. You're just like, I'm watching for this, like, I can do that. And it gives you a dream and you just want to go from there.
And when you get to Cal Poly, you want to stick it to them.
Yeah, you want to
pass it on.
Yeah, I mean,
do you know what your record was against Fresno State, Long Beach, and Fullerton?
I did not lose. Actually, my first ever win came against Fresno State. First ever win. So it was, I'll never forget, it's my first ever outing. So I registered my first year because I didn't know anything about pitching. And Jerry Weinstein made me like guinea pig for all the stuff that we did, which is great. I learned so much from that man when it comes to pitching. I wouldn't be where I am right now if it wasn't for him. And we had our up and down battles because just wanted to play. But the best thing I ever did was redshirt my freshman year because there was no way I was ready to pitch. So it was opening series against Fresno State, I want to believe. It was my sophomore year. We're at Cal Poly.
Is Garrett Olson there?
Yep, Garrett Olson. He's one of my teammates. And we're playing, and I want to say it's a Sunday game, or I don't know. No, it's a Sunday, Saturday. I don't know, one of the night games. Anyways, I come into pitch, and it was a tie game. We end up taking the lead, So I'm in line for the win. And then the next inning, I go out there, something happens. We have 1 out, a runner at third, and I'm pitching. Oh, excuse me, let me start this back. I come in, it's a tie game. 1 out, runner at third, I get a comebacker to me. And the runner at third starts going. So I check him, throw to the catcher. We run down, I go behind the home plate. Catcher's running back, I'm there. He throws it to Josh Lansford, Carney Lansford's son. So he's our third baseman. Josh gets it at third, starts running. And the guy's coming at me. I'm like, give me the ball, let's go. Josh throws it way over my head into the backstop when he's on. So the guy scores. So now we're down. And I'm like, man, I'm in line for the loss. My first ever outing, I'm in line for the loss. The next inning, Lansford hits a 2-run bomb. So I ended up getting the win because he had a walk-off bomb against us. I was like, it was the best thing ever. I went from being a loser to a winner in one day.
It goes into the books as a W.
I know, that's what
No matter
Nobody
what.
sees how it happened.
I know. It was great. It was unearned run, so we were all good. But it was like, that was my first outing. And then I pitched against them my junior year up in Fresno. We did pretty good against them for 3 straight games. And then Long Beach, I did not beat Long Beach. They actually handled it to me my junior year. It was one of my, I think, 2 or 3 losses I had was against Long Beach. And man, I had a no-hitter going through 5, and then they just freaking shelled me. And then Fullerton, I beat Fullerton. So I guess I was 3-1 against those teams. So I'll take it.
Yeah. That's another thing to look at,
Well, it's all about time spent, right? I think as a recruiter, you're trying to look how do you best utilize your time throughout the windows we have for recruiting, and so it's which avenue we're going to go to, and as far as looking at something and evaluating somebody, and so you're just trying to make sure that you're using your time wisely as much as possible because you only have so much time. So, for me, that's the first thing I ever asked for, just right off the get, and then that kind of gets me in the right direction, which way I need to go.
Yeah. If you're not above a 3.8, don't even.
I didn't say that.
I will.
Coach gave us a little bit of insight about 2020.
Yeah.
Can you talk about some of the innings you guys are bringing back before we cut out of here and kind of take us through what you guys expect us next year and with some of the youth you guys have coming?
Yeah, I mean, hey, I like our class a lot. We have a lot of depth across the board in the infield. I mean, we got some physicality. I think that's what Stanford's always known for is the physicality of our players. Losing 9 guys in the draft. I mean, the turnover is going to be tough across the board anywhere. And on the mound, we bring back Brendan Beck, who's our front end starter last year. So we have experience there. We'll probably have another junior on Saturday, and then we'll have a sophomore who was a freshman All-American last year, who started for Tuesdays. Will be our Sunday guy. I like what those 3 bring to the table. They bring experience, they bring presence, they bring competitiveness, and they pretty much all 3. They give you the best chance to stay in the game as long as we can. Bullpen wise, that we have question marks, and it's no different than my first year here when we had question marks, right? We had Tristan Beck and Chris Bubich, who you guys talked about earlier. So we knew we had 2 really good starters. We had Eric Miller, who was a 4th-round draft pick last year, was starting on Sunday. So we knew we had that. The bullpen we had nobody. We didn't know, right? Jack Little, who was a All-American Team USA guy. I mean, he threw 2 innings as a freshman. Zach Gretsch threw like 1 inning as a freshman. And we didn't know what we were getting out of those 2 guys, but they ended up being amazing for us. And so we're kind of hoping something like that happens again. Thank God we have Zach Gretsch back again this year. He led our team in appearances last 2 years in a row. And then he's back. And then we have some young arms like Cody Jensen, Quinn Matthews, Carson Rudd, Austin Weimiller, some guys that hopefully can bring into the table. And then offensively, I mean, I know Coach touched on it, but we got some dudes, athleticism. And I think this is the first time, probably since we've been here, where the lineup won't just be the lineup that you see Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think guys should be ready to play every day because that lineup could flip real quick just because we have the depth, which should be fun and keep guys in the game. So we're excited about it.
Yeah, that's kind of what he said. It's some guys are unproven, and
It's going to be a learning process.
Yeah, this is the year for them to prove themselves. There's some pieces, and man, dude, this has been fun. You guys have been great hosts.
It's a blast.
I
Thank you
really
for having me.
appreciate you and Coach Esker taking the time, and I know you guys are busy guys, and being a Valley guy, dude, I was cool you decided to say yes to this, and
Anything I can do. Anytime I hear, and we got a kid at camp that was from Turlock, and I went down and talked to his dad just to kind of talk to him about being from the Central Valley. I mean, I love it. It's where I'm from, and people can make fun of you a little bit about it, but for me, I'm grateful for being there, and it's taught me a lot, and it's made me who I am today, and the values, and it's been amazing.
No, dude. Again, thank you very much for doing the show, and best of luck this year.
Appreciate it, guys.
Unless you play the Dogs, like I said earlier. Chad, anything else, man?
No, it was great. Thanks.
Thank you,
Appreciate
guys.
it.
Guys, that's Coach Eager here at Stanford. Thank you.
Hit or
you.
die.